Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your daily bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depus. I want to thank you for being here with us today on this Thursday, September 26th, 2024. Milwaukee Brewers are currently playing the rubber match of this series against Pittsburgh. That game started, I believe, an 11-10 start, very early game. I wasn't expecting it. I'm very bad with the schedules. I try to keep you as up to date as I possibly can, but me, myself, and we struggle. Sometimes when it comes to that, I get the notification on my phone, and the Milwaukee Brewers are playing a game. They currently just took a 1-0 lead and on the way to hopefully winning the series. But that brings me to my next point. It is official. After yesterday, the Brewers lost, the Phillies won. The Brewers no longer have the opportunity to take a 1 or a 2 seed in the MLB playoffs. So this would be 3.5 games here for the rest of the regular season. Essentially irrelevant. They don't mean anything. So all of it right now, like I said before, it's just going to be a tune-up. Get your pitchers ready, get them in a rhythm, and give your guys rest if you need to. And of course, Murph, as experienced as he is, we fully trust him to do that. But it's always nice to rack up those wins. Of course, you can remember how many wins that team got back in 2024, even though they were only supposed to win 78 games. They won X amount of games. They already reached that 90 win threshold, which I think has only been done 5 times in Brewers history. You can fact check me on that if you'd like, but it's a pretty rare occurrence. Milwaukee is able to go over that threshold now at 90 wins, but that 1 or 2 seed, it's out the door, which means that they will be taking on a wild card team, and that game will be Tuesday. And there's some interesting developments on that. But to get to this point, I want to kind of summarize what happened in the game last night. Very, very boring game, really. Freddie Peralta, he had his 200th strikeout of the season, but the bats couldn't get anything going, just scraped 1 run across. Freddie actually looked pretty solid. He did get into the 6th inning, only went 5 1/3, gave up the 2 runs. Both of those were earned on 2 hits, 2 walks, but he struck out 7. That you'll take that going into the playoffs. We have to come to terms here at this point that Freddie Peralta is not going to pitch 6 innings every time. He's definitely not going to go 7 unless things go crazy good when it gets to the playoffs. So, and I think the bullpen is good enough where we can feel comfortable with him at least getting through 5, get Milwaukee into a good position where they can just pretty much ride the bullpen the rest of the way. The last 4 innings of the game, they can do that. Yesterday, Aaron Ashby, DL Hall, the lefties, they looked really solid out of the bullpen, and they have for the most part in these last couple of weeks here. Both of those guys were expected to be starters at some point, but they have really, after a turn of events, have really evolved into 2 solid bullpen pieces, and I bet they are used when it comes to the playoffs. Hopefully it's not just 2 games again this year. So 2 seed officially out the window, but the funny story here, so the last 2 wild card seeds here for the National League are going to be between the Mets, the Braves, the Padres are in there, as well as the Diamondbacks. So there's actually that would be 3 wild cards that those 4 teams are fighting over. The Mets and the Braves are just 1 game apart, and they were supposed to play yesterday and today, but of course Hurricane Helene has hit down in the southeast part of the nation, and they have had to postpone those games. And instead of finding a neutral site, which I think a lot of people think would be beneficial for both these teams, the doubleheader. So these 2 teams playing very, very important games here at the end of the season. They're interdivisional. They of course big rivals, both out of the NL East. And these games matter a lot because they're going to essentially determine who's going to get into that wild card spot. They're going to have to play both those games on Monday, the day before the wild card. So this could be actually beneficial for the Brewers, especially if the Mets end up taking that last spot in the wild card, because, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, Milwaukee will be playing the Mets for a 3-game set this weekend. So that means that they would be playing the Mets in Milwaukee, and then the Mets will have to go play 2 games in Atlanta. And every single one of these games matters, mind you. Like, they are going to have to use pitchers like this is a playoff game in a playoff situation. So they'll have to play these 3 games against the Brewers and then play 2 games in Atlanta, and that's a tough place to play as well. And then Tuesday's the wild card right there. So New York Mets, they could have a 5 games in 4 day stretch where every single game has a kind of playoff atmosphere for them. We'll see how Milwaukee handles it this weekend, but I don't think that they're going to be a team to just sit back and not try to win as many games as possible. Regardless, like I said, the seeding doesn't matter. Milwaukee's going to get the 3 seed. It like whatever happens, happens. But I don't think they're going to sit on their heels and just let New York take a few games. So it's a very interesting development. We'll see how it all shakes up. But you got the San Diego Padres, who actually right now have been playing so well, they have a chance to catch LA at the top of the National League and the top of the National League West. You have Arizona, who has now struggled a little bit. Like these 3 bottom teams, San Diego, they've essentially locked up a spot. So it's Arizona and New York and Atlanta. Arizona's been struggling a little bit. Atlanta and New York, they have kind of been back and forth recently. And that's why those 2 games between those 2 teams are going to mean a lot. So the pitchers are going to have to be used for those squads. They can't play it like it's the end of the regular season, like they're just getting ready, like Milwaukee is right now, to get into that playoff spot. So that we'll see. Maybe all the pitchers are spent by the time it gets to the wild card. Maybe Milwaukee has a bit of an easier time. But even if that's the case, it doesn't matter. Milwaukee, like, they can still find a way to lose. It's still baseball. It's just a 3-game series. Kind of said it before. I don't really like the format. You can play great for 162 games and then play the last team that got into the wild card and have them roll you for 2 games and your whole season's over. Even if they're spent on pitching, baseball's just funny. That's why you can't bet on it. You can't bet on baseball, and because you have no idea what's going to happen. You can think that the LA Dodgers going into this year, they have essentially 10 starting pitchers deep. They have 3 Hall of Famers at the top of their lineup, but they haven't played that well due to injury. A couple of guys have struggled at different spots. Same thing with Atlanta. That roster is really solid, but a lot of their superstars are either A, injured, or B, a shell of what they used to be. So, and that's why Atlanta's in the position that they're at right now. It's the unpredictability makes this interesting, but it might give Milwaukee a bit of a slight edge. It does help that it's at home. You'd like to think that at American Family Field, the Brewers are going to have an advantage. The statistics have shown it over the course of recent history. At least they like to play and win home games, and that's the way baseball goes. You get to hit last. And so that's kind of the developments there, where Milwaukee still leads 1-0. Savali is on the mound right now. He's pitched pretty solid. Willie Adames had another boneheaded error. He's defensively this year, you forget about it because of how much of an offensive force Willie Adames has been, but defensively, by golly, he just does not look like the same guy. So they're a little bit slow getting a double play there. Sorry, I'm not going to do any play-by-play or anything. The Brewers, a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the third. Pittsburgh has 2 outs and guys on first and third, and historic Brewer killer Andrew McCutchen is at the plate. Sorry, all of this is going to be irrelevant by the time that you're either watching or listening at this point, but I'm just trying to invite you here into my living room here at the A Little Bit of Cheese headquarters. And we're going to switch gears a little bit. Jordan Love is a, quote, real possibility to play Sunday. Yes, it sounds like a broken record. Ian Rappaport said it last week. Adam Schefter before as well. But it was also stated, quote, he was pretty close to playing last Sunday. I'll give my little 2 cents here. And Ryder, he had a good comment last week. Start Willis. We need Love for the Super Bowl. That's a good point. And right now, I think everyone can feel pretty confident in what Malik Willis brings to the table. As good as Minnesota has been, and you got to really give them their roses. I was not giving him any credit coming into this year. I didn't think it was going to even remotely look like what it looks right now. They beat San Francisco and Houston. Those are 2 Super Bowl contenders. and they looked really good. They stomped Houston. It was 34-7. So even with Jordan Love, who knows what happens in this game? It's a divisional rivalry. Anything's up for grabs. Football's funny enough where Malik Willis could go in there and he could win a ball game for the Packers against Minnesota, who've looked like a team of Superman out there. So I'd say if there is, once again, the same as last week, if there is any inkling that Jordan Love could injure himself even further this game due to the injury he has already sustained to that MCL, just play with Malik. It's been really fun. Let's just ride this train as long as we can, get Jordan Love as healthy as we can. I know I kind of said before it'd be good for Love to play, but if there is any reasonable doubt, just keep going with Malik. It's looked good. I think the defense is going to be able to figure something out here against Minnesota. Hafley's defenses look like they could go in and almost beat anybody. I'm essentially scratching that entire Philly game from week one. I think the conditions, the circumstances, things were just really weird in that week one game. I think this is going to be a top 10 defense in the NFL. And when you have that kind of a defense, you can win no matter who your quarterback is, especially if he's taking care of the ball and still has the explosive play power that Malik Willis has had thus far. I said I'd talk about Badgers if there's anything interesting. There's not. I'll give a prediction for this weekend. They're 14.5-point underdogs taking on USC. I'm going to say that they don't cover due to the fact that they haven't been able to move the ball and the defense gets ran through like a hot knife through some cheese, as we'll stick with the cheese trend here on a little bit of cheese. They got to show me something for me to have any confidence in them against anybody. Their first two games this season should have been cupcake games. They had an opportunity to lose both of those. They did not blow either of those two teams out, even with their starting quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke. And now it's Braden Locke, who did not look good at all against Alabama. So prediction, they don't cover. Another game, they could lose by 30, again, like they did to Alabama. Not saying USC is on the same level as Alabama, but now backup quarterback the entire game, it's kind of a different feel to it. This will be a big test to see how resilient these guys can be under Luke Fickell, how they can face adversity, because now they have like dorks like me going out and like I never did anything in sports. Now I'm calling these guys out because they have played terrible. Like it's people are talking now. They want people fired. They're angry. It's only the second year of this head coach and the coordinating there in Madison, but people are going to talk about it and they're going to continue to talk. How do these kids go out and respond when everyone thinks that their team is a dumpster fire, dog water, trash, terrible? Make me say something otherwise. That'll be my bottom line for the Badgers tonight. Cowboys at Giants 7:15. This game for predicting should feel pretty easy. Of course, New York is coming off of a big win against the Cleveland Browns. They got stomped by Minnesota before. They haven't looked like a good team. Dallas has also looked really bad so far this year. And as bad as I want to talk about Mike McCarthy, because I just love watching him lose, like now and again, it's just always nice to just turn on the Cowboys game. Oh, they're down 28-3 against Baltimore. It warms your heart. Dallas ended up coming back in that game. They did not come out with a win, but it's nice to watch them get stomped. Like Green Bay when they went into Dallas last year for that wild card game. That was awesome. I love to see Mike McCarthy lose, but it's not going to happen tonight. They're going to beat the Giants. That it could be a blowout. It feels like Dallas, at some point, there's too much offensive talent. You got a couple of superstars there. They're going to blow out one game. It feels like this is going to be it. I would preview the Brewer game, but it's going on right in front of my face right now. Hey, Savali got out of the inning. Brewers still have that 1-0 lead. Now on to the top of the fourth. But we will head into Friday. I'm here in La Crosse, if you didn't know. So it is Oktoberfest weekend starting. One of the biggest drinking celebrations in the entire nation is going to be taking place right here in the city that I reside in. So things are going to get nuts these next couple days, but I will be here tomorrow and it's going to be awesome. We'll see you then. We'll get you all prepped for another great weekend in Wisconsin sports. I'm your host, Cody Depius. I want to thank you for being here with us once again today. This has been another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your daily bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.